Hello, welcome to Inside Politics. My name is Anastasiya Lavrina. On January 26, President Ilham Aliyev welcomed Israel's Foreign Minister Gideon in Baku, marking another high-level step in a relationship that has quietly become one of the most strategic partnerships linking the South Caucasus and the Middle East. What began as diplomatic ties more than 3 decades ago has evolved into cooperation that now spans energy security, defense technologies, trade, innovation, and investment. Azerbaijan remains a key energy supplier to Israel, while Israeli expertise in advanced technologies, agriculture, water management, and artificial intelligence is increasingly visible in Azerbaijan's modernization agenda. This latest visit, accompanied by a large business delegation and an Azerbaijan-Israel business forum, signals that the partnership is expanding beyond government dialogue into long-term economic and technological integration. But this relationship also carries broader geopolitical weight. In a region shaped by shifting alliances, security risks, and competing regional powers, every strategic partnership matters. So, how far can Azerbaijan and Israel take this cooperation, and what will it mean for regional stability, energy security, and the balance of power in the wider neighborhood? Joining me now is Professor Brenda Schaefer, United States Naval Postgraduate School, California. Professor Schaefer, warm welcome to Inside Politics.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. So, just days ago, President of Azerbaijan and President of Israel met in Davos, followed by the visit of Foreign Minister Gideon to Baku. What message do these back-to-back high-level contacts send about the depths of this relationship?
Well, I think actually the visits are just in line with the normal, wonderful, deep cooperative relations between these two countries. There's nothing exceptional about frequent meetings between leaders of these countries. I think, though, the timing is very interesting because right now Azerbaijan sits in the center of several significant geopolitical developments. One is the return of the United States to the South Caucasus and the greater Caspian region, with the U.S. Hosting the peace declaration between Armenia and Azerbaijan and promoting the opening of the Trip corridor, which will strengthen the Zengezur corridor and the Middle corridor. At the same time, it's not clear that all of Azerbaijan's neighbors, the powers in the region, will completely be satisfied with American return to the region, and we may see some events where especially Russia tries to overturn these developments, to push back some of the cooperation that's been established. I think the June elections in Armenia will be a real test for how successful the U.S. has been in returning to this region and stabilizing to the greater Caspian region. At the same time, we also have extreme instability in Iran, probably unprecedented since the 1979 Islamic Revolution that brought the current regime to power. Really tens of thousands of people, demonstrators murdered in the streets, and probably this will lead to continued waves of instability in Iran. This can affect not only Iran itself, the regime itself, but all neighboring countries, including Turkey, Azerbaijan, Armenia, Turkmenistan, and even Russia, because Iran is an important supplier of weapons for Russia's war in Ukraine, especially for drones, and this event some kind of really a shakeup of the whole region.
Well, indeed, we will definitely come back to the issues of what's happening today in Iran. But before that, I want to bring more attention to cooperation in between of two countries, Azerbaijan and Israel. And you, as a As someone who studied Azerbaijan's energy and foreign policy for many years, you yourself know that energy has long been the backbone of these ties. How critical is Azerbaijan to Israel's energy security today, and how does it shape political trust between the two countries?
Right. So I think that, it's not energy trade that created the deep diplomatic relations and strategic relations, but it's maybe the opposite. Because of this deep partnership, it allowed very extensive oil trade between Azerbaijan and Israel. But I think we need to look at the bigger picture, that Azerbaijan is really becoming a major energy player in the Middle East, whether it's the mutual investments between the UAE and Azerbaijan and each other's energy sectors, with SOCAR now supplying natural gas to Syria, currently half a BCM, but in the future this could be more. And of course, SOCAR's investments in the Tamar field and its licenses to drill offshore of the near the Leviathan field.
And coming back to the situation in the region, following the restoration of control over Karabakh, Azerbaijan has focused heavily on reconstruction and modernization. We do know that Israel is trying to stand together with Azerbaijan in all of these processes. So to what extent can cooperation with Israel, especially in technology, agriculture, water management, and smart infrastructure, contribute to this transformation?
Right. So, I think that, Azerbaijan is at a place where it's really now ready to diversify its economy. The building of the extensive building as part of the Great Return in its territories that were occupied, that were liberated in 2020 and 2023. This creates extensive economic opportunities, but also extensive economic and infrastructure needs. And I think in many cases, Israeli companies, especially in the field of infrastructure, are sort of a good match for the Azerbaijani market.
Azerbaijan has joined the Trump's Board of Peace initiative as a founding state. The official ceremony was taking place in Davos just last week. First, we want to know, what are your personal expectations from this initiative, particularly regarding Gaza's reconstruction and stabilization? And second, could Azerbaijan's participation open additional avenues for cooperation with both Israel and the United States?
So I think that joining of Azerbaijan to this board shows how it's become an important player in general as a middle power, and specifically in the Middle East. But at the same time, I think we need to have modest expectations. Still many things need to go in order to end the war situation in Gaza. And the first and foremost is the return of the last deceased hostage that's still in the Gaza Strip. Opening of the Rafah gate will come after this. And then also the disarmament of Hamas, which is no easy task, and it's still a very big hurdle ahead.
Absolutely. That was my next question. Israel says it was conducting a large-scale operation to recover the last hostages in Gaza and may reopen the Rafah crossing on a limited basis once that process is complete. From a strategic standpoint, how might this shift the humanitarian and political dynamics on the ground?
Again, I think it really depends on the Hamas disarmament issue. As long as really Hamas controls the region, is still capable of firing rockets into Israel, conducting terrorist attacks, we really can't end this situation of war and to go into a period of rebuilding. So still there's some important impediments. But like I said, the world. We're about to maybe have a huge shakeup in the region, including because Iran is no longer able to pay for its proxies, whether it's Hamas or Hezbollah. We're even seeing it already in Iraq, where the Iranian-oriented government is stepping down, and a less government that's not controlled by Tehran is coming into power. This is all related to the weakness of Tehran itself, its inability to pay its proxies. It can hardly even pay salaries to the IRGC and the Iranian military at this point.
Brenda, you raised a very important element, disarmament of Hamas or restoration of Gaza, what is being actively discussed, especially after the founding of this Board of Peace initiative by Donald Trump. What should come first, or do you think that it's two things may happen in a parallel way?
Yeah, it seems that it'll work hand in hand, but again, the success will be measured by the disarmament and moving from stage of war to a stage of rebuilding.
Well, coming back to the region of the South Caucasus and also the Caspian region, Israel's Foreign Minister Gideon is scheduled to visit Kazakhstan immediately after his trip to Azerbaijan. And preparations reportedly began months ago following Kazakhstan's decision to join the Abraham Accords. Do you see this as a part of Israel's broader effort to expand its diplomatic and economic footprint across Central Asia and the Caspian region?
Well, I think one, it's part of the U.S. renewed interest in the region. You know, the U.S. was basically missing in action in the South Caucasus, Central Asia, Caspian region for about 15 years. The U.S. is coming back. One of the reasons it's coming back is because of Israel's strong ties with the states of Central Asia, with Azerbaijan, and this is an interest of the U.S. to strengthen its allies and the relationships between its allies. Another aspect is the really growth of the power of Turkey on its own, but also in the alliances with Azerbaijan, Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, and the rest of the Central Asian states. This new alliance of Turkey, Azerbaijan, and Central Asia is the first counterweight to China and Russia in the Caspian region. It's an extremely important development, and it's very important that the U.S., that the Trump administration was able to recognize this development. And as we're seeing in the Middle East, we're now, a year and a month ago, before December 2024, and the fall of the Assad regime, we would talk of Israel and Iran as the defining powers in the Middle East. Today, it's Israel and Turkey. And Turkey's power is growing in the region, and at the same time, it's growing in Eurasia together with Azerbaijan.
So, from your answer, I can conclude that the presence of the United States of America, the growing interest in the South Caucasus, will also inspire the Israel and Israeli companies to increase the level of partnership with the countries in the region, including Azerbaijan, the Central Asia, in the near future, right?
Well, I think the peace agreement that was hosted by the White House, the peace declaration, it's really put a lot more attention to Azerbaijan and to Armenia as potential investment venues. You sort of hear right now among investors, Azerbaijan is kind of hot, interesting, especially because of the peace agreement and the opening of the Zengezur corridor in the future, which will allow a lot more trade opportunities and interesting investment opportunities.
Well, and now about Iran, with tensions between Washington and Tehran running high. How is this dynamic perceived in Israel? In particular, I'm talking now about the United States of America and Iran. And how would you define the current phase of United States, Iran, and Israel relations? Strategic deterrence, controlled confrontation, or something more volatile?
Right. So, Iran's way of dealing with pressure from the United States, it's always to attack American allies. So we've had this, most of 2016, 17, 18, Iran was attacking UAE and Saudi Arabia. It even, hit the main processing field of Saudi Arabian oil, something that was almost considered, unbelievable that could happen, in the oil world. And in the last round, American forces in different, Qatar, Syria are attacked by Iran when Iran is attacked by the United States, and now currently, so the Iranian leadership has said that if the U.S. launches attack on Iran, that they'll attack Israel. So it's kind of a common pattern, and there's kind of a readiness that if there's a U.S. operation on Iran, that there could be attacks on Israel. I think people in Israel are very resilient, and especially because there's still many dangers from Iran, and actually in its weakened situation, it might be the most dangerous because it can miscalculate. It could just lash out, sort of last hurrah type activities, and I think this is a danger to all the countries in the region, including Azerbaijan, including Israel, Saudi Arabia, and one of I think the major concerns is there's still uranium in Iran, and which is something that could be moved. It could be used as dirty bombs in the region, and I think this is still a very big risk. But I believe U.S. and Israeli authorities are completely working on ways to neutralize this danger.
Well, Brenda, thank you. Thank you so much for joining Inside Politics today.
My pleasure.
Thank you. So, as we have seen, Azerbaijan-Israel relations are no longer limited to occasional diplomatic exchanges or sector-specific cooperation. What has taken shape over the years is a structured and steadily expanding partnership spanning energy supplies, defense technologies, business investment, and now innovation, agriculture, and artificial intelligence. Regular high-level visits, joint commissions, and growing business engagement suggests that both sides are moving toward long-term institutional cooperation rather than short-term interests. But beyond economics, this partnership carries strategic implications for a wider region where alliances are constantly being tested and recalibrated. You have been watching Inside Politics. My name is Anastasiya Lavrina. Thank you for joining us, and see you next time.